I call the Agriculture Committee meeting to order. It is March 16th, 2023. Can I have a motion from someone to approve? Oh, I'm sorry, there is a quorum present. May I have a motion to approve the minutes from our last meeting?
So moved, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Representative Tabke moves the minutes from, this was 2 days ago, March 14th, 2023. Any discussion? All approval of the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. The motion passes. The minutes are adopted from last meeting.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Representative Anderson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a point here that I think I received an email late last night from Laura Lemke of the Feed Grain People. And she wasn't given a chance to testify at the hearing on the Grain Indemnity Fund. And I think her testimony would have been very key, very important. So will there be an opportunity again for her to present her facts and opinions as she would see fit?
Thank you, Representative Anderson. I know there was a letter from her group in our packet, and I can confer, at the last meeting, I saw that, and I can confer with staff and the chair about if and when that's possible. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, our first agenda item is our MDA FarmLink presentation. The presenters can approach the stand. Oh, it's online. Okay, great. So direct your attention to the screens. And our presenter online. Please go ahead, state your name for the record and begin your presentation.
Madam Chair and members, my name is Jim Osley. I'm a livestock development and planning specialist, as well as the FarmLink coordinator with the Minnesota Department of Agriculture's Ag Marketing and Development Division.
Thank you, sir. Would you be able to speak a little bit louder or closer to the microphone so we can hear you more clearly in the committee room? Thank you. Proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members. I'm going to go ahead and, well, first off, can you hear me all right?
Yep, that's great. Thank you.
Wonderful. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And this is information that I believe you have in your packets.
We did have your screen up for a moment, but then it went away.
Okay.
Okay, we think if you keep talking, then it might work out okay.
All right, I'm going to try this again. All right.
Excellent. Thank
Can you
you.
see
Please
this?
proceed. Yep.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to first thank you for the opportunity to present on FarmLink today. I had all of intentions in being there in person. However, Mother Nature had something else in store for us today, just like she has for the last couple of months. The primary focus of Minnesota FarmLink is to get the next generation of farmers on the land. With the average age of the Minnesota farmer being 55 years old and roughly 70% of farmland projected to transfer ownership in the next 20 years, farmland access and succession is a significant priority. FarmLink began as a simple spreadsheet developed in 2007 with a very simple listing service web application being created in 2009. The original focus was providing a common location for landowners, realtors, and auction companies for a way to advertise land and farms for sale or rent. With increased interest from Minnesota farmers and beginning and emerging farmers seeking opportunities to connect with each other and move forward together in a farm business, 2011 saw the program expanded to list beginning farmers and existing farm owners who were both seeking to transition either into a farm or out of a farm. The prior FarmLink web application was quite obsolete and the program required staff time to collect participation forms, enter much of the data into the system for the public to view, connect people through phone calls and email while ensuring privacy, and then documenting all of that correspondence. Because of you all, Minnesota FarmLink was given funding to improve the web application, and this process of updating had been years in the making and was finally completed in very late of 2022. Today, the primary objective of FarmLink is to get that next generation of farmers on the land. However, the FarmLink tool has been expanded. It continues to be a resource for people seeking out land or farms to purchase or rent, for those wanting to list agricultural properties for sale or rent, a connection tool for those wanting to farm with those that are already farming, and now includes the opportunities for farms and ag businesses to list employment opportunities and opportunities for those interested in working on a farm or an ag business to post resume type listings. This is a screenshot of the FarmLink homepage. The public can visit without the need to log in and see lists within each category. Listings are for sale or for rent or provide contact information to the public. However, those seeking or providing transition, employment, or mentorships can only see limited information with no private or contact information available for the public viewing. Some of the benefits of the newly upgraded FarmLink web platform include being self-serviceable. It's account-based. There's no passwords to remember. Each time you log in, you'll be emailed and texted an access code. There's no fees associated with using FarmLink. It's open to farmers, ag businesses, realtors, and landowners. Provides general application forms for each type of listing with opportunities to explain in narrative. There's no waiting to exchange information. There's no cold calling. The use of blind emails is used through our web application to share general information before making a commitment to a connection and providing contact information. The web application itself sends out reminders when listings will expire and asks the listing agent or individual to log back in to reactivate. And it gives more focus, allows more focus by the FarmLink coordinator, which is myself, to work with users on access and transition resources instead of having to manually input all the data and exchange information and document correspondence between different parties. In addition to funding for the FarmLink web application improvements, dollars were given to begin the creation of farmland access and succession teams. The goal was to mimic the success of the Minnesota Dairy Initiative team approach in working through farm issues, but specific to farmland access and succession. $25,000 was contracted to both Minnesota Farm Bureau and the Minnesota Dairy Initiative to develop these specific teams as needed. So much of what is being done in farmland access and succession is short-term, and the reality is landowners need long-term assistance and follow-up to actually follow through with a transition plan. Contracts for these will end in June, with final reporting due by July 15th. However, we're already receiving feedback. Most importantly, we've been told there is an overwhelming need for assistance, and financial resources currently provided are not enough to secure the professionals needed to coordinate teams long-term. It has been found that the team approach does work, but it needs to be long-term in its funding and have a dedicated individuals to coordinate it. The good news out of this feedback is that we're attempting to meet a very important need to the next generation of farmers on the land in continuing that farming legacy. With that, I thank you for the opportunity to present to this committee and would be happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Osley. Committee members, we have a very full agenda today, but if there's a brief question for the presenter, we can entertain that before moving on. Great, seeing none. Thank you very much for your presentation, sir. And we will have our first bill before us. So Representative Wolgamott, please approach. So welcome back to the committee. Since Representative Wolgamott is not on the committee, I will move House File 2110. before the committee to be laid over for possible inclusion in an agriculture omnibus bill. Once you are ready, Representative Wolgamott, please introduce yourself for the record and begin your testimony.
Well, thank you very much, Madam Chair. My name is Dan Wolgamott, and I am very excited to be here before you this afternoon to present House File 2110, which is a bill to appropriate $200,000 per year to the from the Minnesota Department of Agriculture for grants to the Center for Rural Policy and Development. A little background on the Center for Rural Policy and Development. For you, Madam Chair and members, the legislature actually created the CRPD in statute in 1997 to produce unbiased research for policymakers. How it works is policy leaders set the research agenda and a majority of their board is appointed by the governor, and there are 2 members of the majority party legislators, one in the House and one in the Senate. What this bill does is it reinstates the funding for the CRPD into the base. It had always been that way until just recent years. So we're getting the appropriation back in the base, and we're actually giving an increase of $100,000 to the original appropriation to account for inflation and the ability to retain staff, produce more research. And Madam Chair and members, this would actually be the first time ever that CRPD has received a funding increase since 1997. And one last thing, Madam Chair, before I turn it over to my testifier here, I'd like to thank Representative Anderson for his support for the bill and for his being a champion for this legislation in the past. And with that, Madam Chair, I'll turn it over to my testifier, and then we'll be more than happy to take any questions that you or members of your committee may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Wolgamott. Please testify, identify yourself for the record and begin.
Chair and members of the committee, my name is Julie Tesh, and I'm President and CEO of the Center for Rural Policy and Development. There is a brief presentation maybe up there, but we'll just get right into it. Like Representative Wolgamott said, our organization was created by the legislature in 1997 with the mission of providing policy leaders like yourself with critical, unbiased research through a rural lens. Now, you may be wondering, why exactly do we need research specifically on rural Minnesota? And the reason is because it's difficult to find research. It's notoriously hard to find research specifically on rural America and specifically rural Minnesota. Our research and rural economic analysis efforts are rooted in the belief that for small towns and communities to thrive, rural leaders need access to data and information that can influence their efforts and economic strategies. A majority of the topics that we research affect the entire state of Minnesota. We provide the information from a rural lens, which is often otherwise a perspective often left out of the conversation. As you all know, America, and especially rural America, has undergone seismic change in the last 20 years, and we are committed to using data to ensure there is available research that reflects this evolution and the opportunities that accompany it. Even in this last year, we have seen trends and data change across Minnesota. From 2020 to 2021, the population of rural Minnesota actually increased for the first time in decades. So those are the type of trends that we follow. We recognize the critical importance of making data and research both available and accessible to community leaders, grant writers, economic development coordinators, and such. We also understand that it can be difficult to find research that is completely unbiased and nonpartisan. So we are proud to be a trusted and tested organization providing that information. I can't quite tell if I'm just gonna we'll wing it here, going off of what Representative Wolgamott said. Like he said, we have a 20-member board. We were created in 1997. We're funded partially by the state and also partially by foundations, and so we're our own 501c3. And I just want to quickly, it's myself and I have 2 staff members who are rock star staff members. They do all of our research. They do it very, very well. Is it up there?
Looks like we've got a blank screen up there.
That's okay. I know one of the questions I typically get is, how do you determine what your topics are? And fortunately, I can tell you that all of you will be receiving in your email or paper copies of our Thought Leader Survey that will be coming out in the coming weeks. And what we do is we list 15 to 20 topics that we see going on in rural Minnesota. And we ask you and other decision makers, whether that's county commissioners, city council members, administrators, I love technology. Okay, we're going without it. But what we do is we take all of that information, we ask people like yourself who make decisions, what exactly is going on in your community, rural or urban, but specifically rural, what are you seeing and what's happening? From there, we compile that information, put it together, and we come up with a thought leader survey that our research committee goes through. And we typically select between 4 and 7 topics per year. This year, topics that we have been looking at are, let's see, childcare. And we were actually the canary in the coal mine about 7 years ago, talking about the lack of childcare and how it's an economic development issue. And so specifically in rural Minnesota, our report was on best practices. We also do a lot of work on workforce shortages. Our most recent report was on the rural mental health workforce and the shortage of actual workforce staff. The next report coming out will actually be on rural education funding and the formulas, and just trying to help people understand where that comes from and how the formulas work. And then rounding out this next year, we'll be doing something on rural housing, and then also on the decline of rural newspapers and civic engagement. So we're very excited about that. So we have topics that range all across the board, but we rely on you all to fill out that survey to let us know. And I believe you have a handout in front of you that might show, yep, handout right there that shows our other topics. Let's see, very quickly, if you want to follow us on social media, please do. ruralmn.org is our website. I have an intern right now through the Citizens League through Capital Pathways, and he's getting us up to speed on Instagram, so you can be looking for Instagram really shortly too. But we're on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube. One of the things that I have failed to mention is that we were created to do white paper research. And while we still do that, we put it into more easier ways to digest that research. So we have a podcast, we do videos, we do webinars, blog posts, the whole 9 yards. We have our own YouTube channel. So for you that are all very busy, you can go to our website and determine how you want to see this research and go from there. If you want to read the full report, you are welcome to it. But just know that there's little bits and pieces there. And with that, I'll yield to any questions.
Thank you so much for your presentation. Are there any other testifiers from the public who wish to speak on this bill? Seeing none, we will move to member discussion. Representative Anderson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to compliment you on the research you do. Your topics are timely, from childcare in rural areas to rural medicine, that type of thing. My only positive suggestion would be, and you touched on it now, is kind of raising awareness of what you do. Sometimes, I think in the deluge of emails we get, some things kind of get buried. So the different ways you can reach us and let us know things are out there, the better. But again, you do excellent research, and it's done impartially. So I want to thank you for that, and keep up the good work.
If you care to, do you have a response?
Chair Burkel, Chair Anderson, thank you very much. And yes, that is actually our #1 issue, is trying to get people to read the research. And so if you have suggestions, please let me know. If there's other forms of media, I don't think we'll go on TikTok. But if you have other ideas, please let us know that what we can do to get the research into your hands better.
Thank you, Ms. Tesh. Representative Frederick.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to say thank you, Representative Wolgamott, for carrying this legislation. And the work that the Center for Rural Policy and Development does impacts some of the work that I'm working on as well. I'm trying to help get the Center for Rural Behavioral Health started in Mankato. And I know that the work that they do and the advocacy that they do as well is impacted by the work that you do. And so I just wanted to point that out, and how there's intersections all over the place that impact all of us, especially the work in the mental health fields. And I just wanted to say thank you for that.
Thank you. Any other member discussion, comments, questions? Seeing none, I will renew my motion to lay over House File 2110 for potential inclusion in our agriculture omnibus bill. I don't need to take a vote, right? Okay, the bill is laid over. Thank you, Representative Wolgamott.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, members.
The next bill we will be hearing is House File 860. Representative Petersburg, when you get yourself up there. Representative Petersburg, welcome to the Ag Committee. And since Representative Petersburg is not on the committee, I will move House File 860 to be laid over for possible inclusion in the Agriculture Omnibus Bill. Representative Petersburg, to your bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, committee, for hearing this bill. This is not a new bill to this committee. Over the years, you've heard it a few times. Every few years, we ask for this, and I believe it's in the governor's budget, but it's a program that I think is exemplified something that is an example for the rest of the regions of the state to use as well. And so we bringing it to you as a way for just expansion and being aware of it. This particular program that we're asking for $25,000 a year is for a really kind of a farm to market type trade show. And I'm going to let the person beside me talk to you about this and then answer any other questions. This is former Congressman and President of Southern Minnesota Initiative Foundation, Tim Penny. And with that, Madam Chair, I'll leave it to you.
Thank you so much. Congressman Penny.
Thank you, Representative Petersburg. It's good to be here before your committee. This room is not unfamiliar to me. I hate to say it, but 40 years ago, when I was a state senator, I was the vice chairman of the Finance Committee, and this was our main meeting room at that time. Good to see several people from our corner of the state on this committee, and thanks for the opportunity to testify. I'm Tim Penny, president of the Southern Minnesota Initiative Foundation. And we are located in Owatonna, Minnesota, but we serve a 20-county region in south central, southeastern Minnesota. We are one of 6 rural foundations that cover collectively the 80 non-metro counties in the state. And we were established 37 years ago to invest in the economic future of our respective rural regions. Our foundation does basically 3 things. We have a series of programs dedicated strictly to the smaller towns in our region. We invest about $2 million annually in early childhood provider trainings and also some of those dollars to address the early childhood shortage in our region. And then we invest in entrepreneurial activity in our region, totaling a couple $1 million every year. I'll hand this. Is there some?
I believe the page is passing around handouts for it too.
And that's our annual report. You can just pass it up the table for folks to look at, just to give you a better idea of our work. But as part of our entrepreneur work, we've helped create a collaborative in southern Minnesota around local foods. We feel it's an important sector of our local economy. More and more restaurants, grocery stores are trying to source locally. We want to take folks who want to go beyond the farmers markets to build a successful business around local foods and help them navigate that future. So with the funding that we receive from the state of Minnesota, $25,000 annually, we are in the base budget at the Department of Agriculture. We match that at our foundation. And then we have other resources that are brought to bear to support this local foods work. It results in basically 2 major activities every year. One is an annual marketplace, which is like a farmer's market on steroids. It's been held at the Rochester Civic Center for 8 years now. This past year, and I think this is one of the handouts that Representative Petersburg made available to the committee, we had 90 exhibitors at this event, 1,300 visitors to this event, and it helps to elevate awareness, understanding, education about local foods, the value of local foods, the importance of that sector to our economy, but it also results in sales at the event. And on average, I think several $100s of proceeds go home with our exhibitors at the event. The second event is held in March. This will be in Cannon Falls. And it's, we call it a trade show where we have exhibitors set up and present their products, and then buyers are there to sample these products, and it results in many contracts between the sellers and the buyers to advance their local food business success. There is a handout for that as well that's been made available by Representative Petersburg's office. But I will give an update because we have that event coming up in just a couple weeks' time on March 23rd. This year we have 57 food businesses signed up for that event, and we have 63 buyers planning to attend that event. And again, if this holds true to last year's outcomes, you will find that the outcome was that 55% of the buyers made purchase contracts that very day. The other 45% were in negotiation for potential food purchases. So with an even larger number of exhibitors and buyers this year, we think the event is going to be even better in terms of advancing and supporting the future of local foods across rural. We do have exhibitors from all across the state, even though this is held in southern Minnesota. And I will simply close by saying that one of our exhibitors came all the way from the Halleck area and confided in me as the trade show was being held back in November, that of all the shows that she and her business exhibited at, ours was the best in terms of the opportunity it gave them to get the word out about their product and to seek additional buyers. And so I thought that was high praise for somebody that came that many miles and felt it was worth the trip. So if there are further questions, I'd be happy to answer them, but it is in the base budget, and the partnership with the Minnesota Department of Ag has been outstanding. They are part of the planning committee every year, and they always have a booth at each of these events so that they can also advertise the programs and services that are available through the Minnesota Department of Ag.
Thank you very much. Are there any other testifiers? Representative Petersburg.
Thank you. And I was just going to comment that, you know, this is an opportunity for small entrepreneur, small farmers and agricultural product providers, an opportunity to get out and actually meet with potential clients and really expand. And without this, it's very difficult for some of them to really maneuver through that. And so it's a great program. Thank you, Madam Chair.
And I've also handed out the annual Feast magazine, which is designed again to promote public understanding of the importance of local foods to Minnesota's economy, and also to help promote these events that I've just described.
Right, are there any other testifiers before we move to member discussion? Anyone wish to testify for or against the bill? Seeing none, we'll move to member discussion. Representative Anderson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Representative Petersburg, thanks. So you've carried this bill a number of years, and it's a good event, a good thing you're carrying. I do have to say that I think of all the recurring spending bills we've seen this year, I think yours is the first that hasn't asked for an increase in funding. So congratulations on that. It's a judicious use of money, and thank you.
Representative Petersburg.
Thank you for that, and I have to admit that the gentleman next to me has been able to keep it under control, and he has done a great job. And actually, because of its self-promotion, it also has benefited from additional sales through that as well. But thank you, Mr. Penny.
Representative Cha.
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you, Petersburg, and former Congressman. In my past life, I was a digital creator, Adobe expert in publishing. And I will say this, that print is not dead, okay? Print is not dead. Because in communities like yours and like mine, we still value AM, radio, and print, right? We haven't really gone to digital because there's a lot of fake news on digital media. But when it comes to print, it's very important. So the project that you're working on here, I like it, because it creates a channel for communication within communities, within that community, and also advocates for those producers and buyers, right? And so I think that anything that we can do as a legislator in this committee to promote more farmers and more organic growth within these farming communities is a positive. So thank you so much for continued work, and good luck.
Any other comments or discussion? I will take the chair's privilege to say thank you for serving my community and the many communities in the Cannon River watershed that I've served for the last 8 years. Southern Minnesota Initiative Foundation does a lot with the resources that you have. So thank you, Representative Petersburg, for bringing this. And I believe with that, we can renew the motion to potentially lay over this Bill 860 for our agriculture omnibus. The bill is laid over. Thank you. Next up, Representative Tabke, House File 2288. Take a moment to make sure the technology is properly connected.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I can get started while that's getting figured out.
Please go ahead.
So, Madam Chair, I have House File 2288 that I recommend being laid over for possible inclusion in a future omnibus bill.
So you are moving the bill before the committee at this
Yes.
time? Excellent. Go ahead, Representative Tabke, to your bill.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair and members. Before I get started on the bill, I want to recognize a student from U of M who is here hanging out with me today, Kyle Thompson. I'm going to wave over here. U of M, an agriculture program, and watching the ag bill, and also hanging out with me today. So thanks for being here, Kyle. So this is a bill for funding. Get a little more space. Thank you. For funding and staffing of winter greenhouses. And so we started working on this my first term in the legislature, so in 2019, with the Extension Center for Sustainable Research. And so since then, there's been a series of iterations of deep winter greenhouses. And so the goal of this is across the state of Minnesota to be able to grow produce all winter long and all year long. So this has the ability to keep temperature. So what it does is it takes solar energy and it stores it in the ground within a greenhouse, and then all night long it takes and releases that heat so that it keeps a temperature between 40 and 50 degrees and allows us to have all year long access to cold seasoned vegetables for greens and that kind of thing. And so this really came back up again because we have a massive supply chain issue throughout the United States, but mostly, not most importantly to me, here in Minnesota, where we get our lettuce and cold seasoned vegetables from California and from the southern half of the United States and other places where there's a significant amount of transportation that's involved and those kinds of things. And so this will allow us, my goal with this is to eventually build thousands of these across the state of Minnesota so that we have local food production all across the state. So this has been really well used in the North Shore. So a lot of the resorts and different restaurants on the North Shore have been using this type of production in order to make sure that we have food all year round. And so we have Greg Schweizer here as my testifier to talk a little bit more. And so there is a packet, I don't know if it was handed out or, oh yep, it's been handed out. So just some information about it and then a PowerPoint, Madam Chair. So if we go to my testifier, that'd be great.
Thank you, Representative Tabke. Go ahead, please identify yourself for the record and begin your testimony.
Hi, I'm Greg Schweizer. I'm the statewide Sustainable Ag and Food Systems Director for the University of Minnesota Extension's Regional Sustainable Development Partnerships. I've been working with deep winter greenhouses on this program for a number of years now, and I will go through and show you how they work and give you a little info. So as Brad mentioned, the deep winter greenhouse, if you can see over the left, it takes solar heat from a steeply sloped south-facing glazing wall, and that heat rises to the peak of the greenhouse where it's drawn underground through some ductwork into a thermal mass, in this case of crushed rock and an insulated foundation. That heat seeps out of the greenhouse at night, creating a growing environment where crops can grow and thrive without relying on an extraordinary amount of fossil fuel heat. So one of the things that these greenhouses thrive on, a crop product that works really well, are salad greens and brassicas, things like lettuces, mustards, arugula, chard, kale, those kinds of things. They love those cold nights and those hot days. They grow great. We've got some other people experimenting with exotic crops like turmeric and ginger on the top and passion fruit, cherimoya, and other things. Just a taste of where the citizen scientists will take this in the future. So now we've developed the farm scale winter greenhouse. The smaller greenhouses worked great, but they were too expensive, so we went back to the drawing board and developed a larger scale greenhouse that we're, after our 2 prototypes in the city of Minneapolis have been created, we know that they work and they work well, and we're excited at this point that we're able to get them out and ready to be used on the landscape. So some of the people, some of the types of farmers that will use these, we have small diversified farms throughout Minnesota who grow a number of products. With the addition of a winter crop, this makes these small farmers much more viable and much more potentially to have much more success with their operations. So the one here is Alternative Roots Farm in Medelia, Minnesota. They've been a partner with our deep winter greenhouse work for a number of years. And as you can see, they grow apples, hogs, raspberries, and now winter crops as well. Another great candidate for this work are emerging farmers. We've had a number of workshops with the Hmong American Farmers Association. Hmong farmers, as many of us know, are some of the best specialty crop producers in Minnesota, and they've got an interest in this technology as well. And finally, to wrap this up, in order to expand this work, we want to replicate and expand the previous Deep Winter Greenhouse Initiative work we have done with our smaller scale greenhouse, where we would like to build a greenhouse, 6 greenhouses throughout greater Minnesota, so that everybody who's interested has the chance to go meet with a farmer that's operating one of these greenhouses, kick the tires, see how it works, and have the ability to have extension, outreach, education going on. We also need some staffing to make this happen, and we would like to have a research greenhouse on campus so we can continue to develop the efficiency of this technology and expand some of the production technology as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Swisher. Representative Tabke, did you have anything more to add for your initial presentation?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the only thing to add is that we're gonna ask for we're asking for 1.48 million, in order to be included in the omnibus bill in order to build the 6 greenhouses, to staff them, and then, also to have, labor and organizing on the organic farm. So, thank you.
Excuse me, are there any folks in the audience who care to testify for or against the bill? Seeing none, we have member discussion. I'm going to start by asking if these locations already exist and are chosen, these 6 locations around greater Minnesota?
They are not. We would have a competitive process.
Okay. Thank you. Representative Cha.
Thank you. What's the price per square feet to build one of these?
I'd have to do the quick calculation. The new farm scale greenhouse came in at about $26,000 total. So that's at about 900 square feet of operable space, but let's see, 60 times 22 is about 1,200 of indoor space.
Representative Cha.
Thank you, Chairperson. I like this because in Northern California, where I lived, we did this with tropical fruits, such as mangoes and papaya. And so what we did, because there were like colder winters in Northern California, we built this greenhouse so that we could grow mangoes and papaya in our climate. And so I really like this concept because as Asian Americans, we rely heavily on medicinal plants that we have to take care over even the winters. If not, then we were going to have to source it from warmer cities and states. And so this would actually, be an answer to some of the challenges we have as Asian American who rely heavily on medicinal herbs throughout the winter. So good luck. Thank you.
Any other member comments or questions? Representative Anderson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Representative Tabke, interesting program. Kind of unusual, the funding is going to go directly to the university. So why isn't this part of the university's budget or a bonding request? Why at the Ag Committee funding directly to the university for this type of project?
Representative Tabke.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Representative Anderson. So that's a great question. So this is a legislatively led project. So this is not something that's a direct request from the University of Minnesota, but have been working with the Extension services for the last 4 years on the ideas and the plans around this, and we need some funding in order to make sure that this goes forward, so we can get the next couple of iterations and make sure that this makes sense for a larger scale production side.
Representative Anderson? Representative Jacob?
Thank you, Chair Purcell. So did I hear you correct? Did you just say roughly $26,000 is what it takes to build one of these?
Representative
Yes.
Tabke?
Madam Chair, Representative Jacob, yes.
Okay.
Representative
And
Jacob.
the ask is for 1.2 million?
Representative Tabke?
Madam Chair, Representative Jacob, 1.48 million.
Okay, so that comes out to well over 200,000 per unit?
Representative Tabke?
Madam Chair and Representative Jacob, per,
Well, you said six.
yep,
So-
so it's 26,000 per unit, six units, $180,000.
Okay, so where does the balance of the money go?
Yep, so there,
Representative
sorry.
Tabke?
The lion's share of the money, where's it going?
yeah, Madam Chair, Representative Jacob, so, what this is, 6, built across the state, a 7th one built at the U of M on the organic farm, plus, with that, there is staffing for them, so we can make sure to get, the research done and make sure that we have all the numbers correct. So I'll just lay it out for you. So the 6, at 180, the on-campus work plus labor is 1.1 million. And then additional needs on the organic farm, in order to make sure that this works there is $200,000, so 1.48 million.
Representative Jacob?
Okay, so roughly 182,000 to build the units, and then more than $1 million for them to function.
Representative Tabke?
Madam Chair, Representative Jacob, so,
Correct?
that, it's mostly correct, it's close enough, yes, in order to do the research, in order to make sure that, we have all the data we need, because there's a lot of work being done around these types of things in the, so the Extension, Regional Sustainable Development, Division of Extension has 6, areas across the state of Minnesota. It does not include the metro, and so they are working on more sustainable development and, throughout the state, and so this is a part of what we want to make sure to get done there.
Representative Jacob, final follow-up?
Thank you.
Representative Anderson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a quick question. When you talked about building the 6 facilities around the state, would these be on private land or at university research centers, or where would these be built?
Representative Tabke?
Chair Purcell and Representative Anderson, it would be a competitive process to see where it makes the most sense. Like, the goal of this is to, like, folks who, have CSAs and who have small farms throughout the state of Minnesota, they have, summer, production, but then during the winter, there's no cash coming in, as we've talked a lot about, or significantly reduced amount of cash coming in. And so this would help make a full season process for this, and they, have been amazed at the fact that the ones that have been built today, the month of, was it December or January for the heating? December, which was really, really cold in December, here. It only costs $250 to heat it for the entire month of December. And so it's, extremely efficient and will do a great job.
Representative Anderson, final follow-up?
Thanks again, Madam Chair. Well, so the state would build these and then let people use them on a rental basis or free of charge, or how would that all work?
Representative Tabke?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And that, Representative Anderson, so that is, when this gets funded, we'll have to figure out exactly, it will go to the extension, folks to figure out exactly how the program will be implemented and the rules around it as we, generally do. So yeah, that will be, to be decided as when the competitive program process will be decided as well. So those will all get figured out as it moves forward.
Representative Tabke, closing remarks?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is something I'm, hopefully you can tell I'm really excited about. There's a lot of, really, great potential. This was all kind of reinvigorated this past, fall when, there was a significant amount of, discussion on Twitter from some prominent politicians about the fact that we didn't have lettuce in fast food restaurants and that kind of thing. And so, we have supply chain issues, and we wouldn't have supply chain issues for this type of product if we were producing locally, and we would be able to have enough food to go around for everyone and be able to have it where we need it at that time. So thank you very much, Madam Chair, and I appreciate everyone's time.
And Representative Tabke, would you like to renew your motion?
Yeah, renew my motion for this to be laid over for possible inclusion in a future omnibus bill.
Thank you. Representative Tabke renews his motion for House File 2288 to be laid over for possible inclusion. The bill is laid over. Representative Frederick, to your bill. It's settled. Representative Frederick, would you like to move your bill?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that House File 695 be laid over for in the committee's future, possibly for oh, wow. All right, let's start over. I move that House File 695 be laid over for a future omnibus bill.
Thank you. Representative Frederick, to your bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Hopefully this will go smoother. Green Seam is an organization dedicated to strategically building and connecting southern Minnesota's extensive agricultural business assets in order to develop and position the entire region to be known nationally and internationally as a place for talent, business innovation, education in relation to agriculture. And I know we're on limited time, so I'm just going to kick it over to my testifiers.
Thank you. First testifier, please identify yourself for the record and proceed.
Thank you, Chair Purcell and members. My name is Sam Ziegler. I'm president of Green Seam. I want to thank you today for letting me come before you and talk about our organization. Green Seam is a nonprofit organization that was founded in 2014 to promote the region as a world-class food and agribusiness epicenter. At our core, we're focused on economic development, targeting the full agriculture supply chain, which consists of retaining and expanding existing businesses, creating and attracting new businesses, talent development, and creating awareness to establish a brand destination for the industry cluster that exists today. Like Silicon Valley nationally or the Destination Medical Center within the state of Minnesota would be an example of that destination. We currently have guidance, insight, and action from more than 54 volunteers, from high tech to professional services to educational institutions, and including Minnesota Department of Ag Commissioner Bailey. Green Seam is focused on the 4 areas of work: business creation and community and business expansion, talent development, branding, as I mentioned. We believe in supporting entrepreneurs who have ideas which will make an impact on our state, and they often will stay in the area if they're already from here. And to note that 85% of a community's growth is from businesses which already exist. It comes from National Ag Economic Development Statistics. 2 success stories were a critical element in is Minnesota State University Mankato, since it was established in 1868, has never had an agriculture program. This has now changed, and they now offer 2 degrees in ag, an ag business major and an ag engineering minor. Mankato is also a regional hub of food and ag, and for 25 years ago, the high school program was cut from the public school, the ag program. And I'm excited to report it's back and it's making an impact, and you'll get to hear about this more in a little bit. From branding and promotion, we're sharing the amazing stories of our region and why we are the solution center for food and ag in the U.S., as often Minnesota businesses are pretty humble, and we need to tell that story because nobody else is going to tell it for us. So one question I often get and would just like to address is how we plan to use the dollars from the state of Minnesota. The investment we use to activate and expand our support of business growth, talent development, and marketing our state's ag industry cluster. This will allow dollars to support time to mentor and provide expertise to entrepreneurs and businesses to increase their odds of success as a startup. Enhances the ability for us to connect with businesses who are in the region and find out ways to help strengthen them. One of those ways, we built out a robust business directory that connects anyone that's in the food and ag on our business directory. And allows us to access data resource tools that we can turn around and help and assist the communities and businesses with information and allow them to make better informed decisions. We advocate for all sizes and types of businesses to invest in Minnesota who are also a part of the food and ag supply chain. Green Seam is proud to say that we have 100% retention of businesses who decide to commit and support us with private funding 4 years ago. And we're in a great public-private partnership to help grow our rural communities. Currently, we are leveraging the state's investment 10-1. You can see that note on the back of the handout that was in your packet. In conclusion, Green Seam is dedicated to ensuring that agriculture will fuel economic growth in Minnesota and is committed to developing this region to be known nationally and internationally as a place for talent, business innovation, and education related to agriculture. I'm proud to have direct supporters here today and have them talk about their experiences. Ethan Dotto, an ag teacher at Mankato School, and one of his students. And then please note there are some information in your packet showcasing that work, and I'd be happy to answer any questions. So thank you for allowing me this time to present on behalf of Green Seam today and your consideration regarding this as an important investment in agriculture and economic development. And thank you for each one of you that have had the opportunity to personally meet, and would welcome a deeper conversation from anybody that I have not had the opportunity yet. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ziegler. Our next testifier, as you mentioned, is with us but remotely. So Ethan Dotto, please identify yourself for the record and begin your testimony.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Ethan Dotto. I serve as one of the agriculture, food, and natural resource teachers here in Mankato area public schools, and actually coming to you live from my classroom. Couldn't escape the kiddos today. And so have the honor and privilege to teach courses such as Intro to Agriculture, Food and Natural Resources, Ag Mechanics and Technology, a new course called Solving World Hunger, and my personal favorite, our Plant Science course. And one of the topics we teach about in plant science is plant systems and plant structure. And one really unique thing about plants is they have equal mass above ground and below ground. And so when we look at those trees, they have just as much root structure below that surface as we see above. And now the showy parts that we get to see, the leaves, the foliage, the flowers on many trees, that's the shiny, showy parts. That's what we get to do here as a classroom and as an agricultural education department. It's that root system below ground, partners like Green Seam that allow us to shine. Now, 4 years ago, I had the privilege of starting this program after much behind the scenes work by Green Seam. In our first year, we offered one course in our department, which enrolled 40 students. 4 short years later, we've added a second teacher, added 8 additional courses, and now see over 400 students on an annual basis. We're creating agricultural literate and informed consumers, designing and developing career-ready skills, and creating citizens that are problem solvers and critical thinkers. None of this would be possible without the initial work and continued support of Sam Ziegler and the greater Green Seam team. And so for these reasons, I ask for your support for House File 695. And with that, I will actually pass it over to one of my students who is honored and excited to be here to share today, Matthew Borman.
Thank you, Mr. Dotto. Our student testifier, please identify yourself before the committee and begin your testimony.
My name is Matthew Borman. For the record, Brenda was supposed to speak had a conflict. I am a senior at Mankato West High School and have been an active member of Mankato Agricultural Education and FFA for the last 4 years. During this time, I have grown my skills as a speaker, leader, and agriculturalist. In the future, I will use these skills as an electrical engineer while capitalizing on my leadership skills. Without this program, I would not be entering with as much confidence, experience, nor network. This would not be possible without the Green Seam organization, and I ask for your funding to continue expanding programs like those I was able to participate in. I appreciate being able to share my experience with you and ask for your support of House File 695.
Thank you, Mr. Borman. Is there anyone else in the audience who would like to testify for or against this bill? Seeing none, we will move to member discussion and questions. Seeing no member discussion, Representative Frederick.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And because I got flustered over my words at the beginning, what I meant to say as well was a thank you to Madam Chair for signing on, along with Representative Harder for being supporters of the bill, so thank you for that. And with that, I guess I would just say I appreciate the committee's support, and I move that House File 695 be laid over for possible inclusion in the Ag Finance and Policy Omnibus.
Thank you. Representative renews his motion, and the bill is laid over. Next up, Representative Burkel. When you are ready, Representative, you may move your bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that House File 1606 be laid over for possible inclusion.
Thank you, and you may proceed. Tell us about your bill.
So House File 1606 is a bill that simply appropriates $75,000 each year for the next biennium to the Minnesota Department of Agriculture to be used as a pass-through grant to the Minnesota Turf Seed Council, which is located in the city of Roseau in my district. The appropriation must be used to continue basic and applied crop research. This appropriation has been made in each of the last several bienniums, but has never been made part of the department's base budget, so introducing a separate bill is necessary every other year. The bill also requires that the council submit a report on how the funds were used to the chairs and ranking members of the Ag Finance and Policy Committees by January 15th of 2025. With me today is Marv Zutz, I think online, if I'm not mistaken, the Executive Director of the Minnesota Turf Seed Council, and he'll tell you a little bit more about the bill. I also have Bruce Clavin here if we have any questions.
Thank you, Representative Burkel. We will move to Mr. Zutz, if you are able to identify yourself for the record and give us your testimony remotely.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for the opportunity to testify today. My name is Marvin Zutz, Executive Director of the Minnesota Turf Seed Council. The Minnesota Turf Seed Council is comprised of a group of farmers, processors, and businesses that represent the turf seed industry in northwest Minnesota. The grass seed industry in northern Minnesota has a long history of turf seed production, starting with the initial appropriation of $35,000 to the University of Minnesota from the Iron Range Resources and Rehabilitation Commission in 1948 to help develop the grass and legume seed industry. The investment helped the University of Minnesota to develop the park variety of Kentucky bluegrass, the very first winter hardy variety that could survive the harsh Minnesota winters. The success of the bluegrass industry started the production of many other species, including timothy, red top, red clover, bird's foot trefoil, perennial ryegrass, and most recently, the fescues. In 1998, the University of Minnesota received a gift of 40 acres from Mrs. Peggy Magnuson for a permanent research farm dedicated to grass and legume seed at Roseau. The University of Minnesota, in cooperation with the Minnesota Turf Seed Council, built a structure on the farm that houses equipment and provides office space for the seed production research project. 3 grass seed processing companies employing 40 workers have been created in Roseau County to clean and sort the seed for market. The grasses contribute approximately $175 million of economic activity in the region. The production of these seeds is very environmentally friendly. Some of these species are perennials and produce seed for 4 or 5 years. Consequently, the soil is not disturbed for years, and there is growth all growing season to prevent nutrient runoff. The seed produced from fields in northern Minnesota goes on to help solve environmental problems across the nation and the world. These seeds are used for mine reclamation, prairie restoration, levee stabilization, nutrient filters, along with many other uses. Perennial ryegrass is a relative newcomer to the region and is used on lawns and golf courses. Production acres numbered less than 1,000 acres in 2001 and have increased every year since. In 2023, we expect to harvest 60,000 acres of perennial ryegrass in the area. The only thing that seems to be growing faster than ryegrass acres is the number of research questions relating to ryegrass production. Producers continue to depend on the Turf Council and the University of Minnesota to answer these questions. Thank you, Madam Chair, for giving me the opportunity to appear before your committee today, and I would be pleased to answer any questions at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Zutz. Is there anyone else who would care to testify for or against the bill? Then we will move to member discussion and questions. Representative Tabke?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and thank you, Representative Burkel, for bringing this. Having extensive background in landscape and horticulture, I know, and lawn care, this is really important for what happens in the lawn care industry and also the future transition from just bluegrass turf to more sustainable turf and perennial grasses and those kinds of things. So thank you very much for bringing this and fully support the project.
Representative Anderson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thinking back, earlier this year, there were some folks down here from golf courses in Minnesota. And they mentioned that this ryegrass took less water to establish and grow. And so it's really a good addition to what they do up there in your area in growing grass seed. So is that kind of replacing the Kentucky bluegrass on golf courses, or are they both still pretty popular, representative in terms of their use in golf courses?
Representative Burkel?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for that question, Representative Anderson. I think both are being used, but I think, given the climate we have, and maybe Mr. Zoot's going to answer this with a little more definity, but I think it is taking up some of that volume.
Mr. Zoot, you are still with us over Zoom. Did you hear the question, and would you be able to respond?
Madam Chair, Representative
Anderson,
I believe. Kentucky bluegrass acres have shrunk of recent. Perennial grass has substituted for the Kentucky bluegrass in most lawn mixtures, and especially for the golf courses down in southern United States. When the Bermuda ryegrass turns brown and goes dormant in the winter, we interseed those courses now with perennial ryegrass. And that's the reason why these golf tournaments are able to continue during the winter now. So when you watch the Tour of Champions and stuff like that, this is perennial ryegrass, primarily from northern Minnesota, that's allowing these golf courses.
Thank you, Mr. Zoot. Other member discussion or questions? Thank you so much, Representative Burkel. Any closing remarks?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Nothing, I'll get things moving along quickly here, but I just renew my motion to lay this over for possible inclusion.
Thank you so much. Representative Burkel renews his motion to lay over the bill, and the bill is laid over. And our final bill that we will be hearing this afternoon is House File 2563, Representative Cha. When you are ready, Representative Cha, if you would like to move your bill before the committee.
Yes, I would, Chair Purcell, to move HF 2563.
Thank you. The bill is before us for possible inclusion in our omnibus bill. Please proceed with your bill introduction.
Thank you. Before I start with my talking points, I want to explain how I arrived at being a farmer, because this plays into my challenges as being a farmer. There's a need in my community for processing meats, and because we are a immigrant and refugee community, the processing of certain meats had to be done by culture or tradition. And a lot of our cultural rituals included the butchering of cows for our ancestors and for our deceased. That means that somebody like myself, if my grandma was to pass away, I had to butcher 8 to 10 cows to offer to my mother, which I could not get at a grocery store. And so these challenges led me to the path of being a small farmer, where I raise heifers, steers, and bulls, and other animals as goats, Berkshire hogs, and chickens. The challenges in those industries always came down to processing, whether it was grass-fed cattle farmers or small-time chicken farmers. That contributed to the cost of the units of production, which didn't make it affordable for others to access and purchase. Just to give you an idea, I was butchering about 45 heads of steers or cattle per week for my community at the time. And I raised about 200 heads of heifers and steers on top of the Berkshire hogs and chickens that I raised during that time over a 10-year period. With that, I'm going to go into the talking points of this bill, HF 2563, and the importance of it for our producers. I'm glad to present HF 2563, which would provide additional support to the Agri-Value Added Program for meat and poultry processing. This is the MDA's flagship grant program to support meat and poultry processors as they work to modernize equipment, expand their operation, or start new plants. This program has a strong record and was included in the governor's budget. My bill would add an additional $3 million to this program over the biennium. Broadly, this committee should care about investing in local and regional meat processing for a few important reasons. First, farmers need these plants to get livestock to market, and unfortunately, they're experiencing a severe shortage of processing access. I think about new farmers. Livestock is a great way to start, but only if we can get it to processing. Second, as with farms, many processors are reaching retirement age. A big barrier for them is transitioning their plants to next generation is the age and the condition of their equipment. If we can help them modernize now, we can ensure they'll be around for the next generation. Finally, farmers, consumers, and workers aren't served well by a consolidated system. The 4 largest meat packers control 54% of the poultry processing, 66% of pork packing, and 85% of beef packing. 98% of beef cattle are processed at just 50 plants across the U.S. We can shorten supply chain, build resiliency, and create good paying jobs for supporting our local processors. Now for a bit about the program. Agri-value added grants are issued to a competitive basis and require a 50% match up to $50,000. Above $50,000, the grantee is responsible for a 75% match with a maximum grant award of $150,000. Individuals, business, cooperatives, and others can apply to invest in equipment or physical improvements that support processing capacity, market diversification, and market access. Excuse me. Last year, grants went to Longcheng in Representative Hansen's district to help process chicken. Now, let me tell you what the importance of Longcheng is to the Asian or immigrant community in Minnesota. For decades, they have allowed processing of cattle, hogs, and chicken at this facility. Just to give you an idea, when a person gives birth in my community to a child, they have to go on a 30-day chicken diet. And we're not just talking about Tyson chicken from your local market. We're talking about jungle fowl or fresh killed chicken that will be butchered and slaughtered and kept for 30 days as a chicken diet to replenish a woman's body. And I'm also happy to mention that this diet is now included at the hospitals here in the cities. So for many decades, that facility served our community really, really well. And thank goodness for the whiz-bang chicken plucker, right? So anyways. And to Jennings Meat Processing, which also received this grant in Representative Anderson's district to help them purchase their new rail system to make their work more efficient. This successful program that has carried and earned the committee support in the past session has made it easier for all these producers and processors. And we hope to see this done again this year. And with that, I'll turn it over to my testifier. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Cha. Our first testifier, please identify yourself for the record and proceed.
Thank you. My name is Morgan Tao. I'm the owner and operator of Concord Fresh Meat Processing. And thank you for Chairman and committee members for giving me the opportunity to testify here. As you know, we've been dealing with livestock for 20 years, and I went through the H1N1 and N1 pandemic and the COVID-19 pandemic, so I was looking for an opportunity to expand the custom services into equal to facility, and I was able to, with this grant and this program, I was able to obtain a reefer truck that I can deliver, like Representative said, 10 to 12 cows to funeral homes, something in safe environment to the communities. I was also to transport we call halal meat to the Muslim community. So with these programs, I will be able to provide more services to the immigrant community. So I support Representative Charles H 2563 bill. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tao. Our next testifier is remote. Hannah Bernhardt, if you identify yourself for the record and proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Hannah Bernhardt, and I run Medicine Creek Farm in Finlayson, where we raise pastured beef, pork, and lamb. I'm a member of Minnesota Farmers Union, and on behalf of myself and the organization, I'm glad to share my strong support of House File 2563. I'm also a member of the Emerging Farmers Working Group, and one commonality of many emerging farmers is that we're highly likely to be direct marketing all of our products. And as such, for emerging livestock farmers, we rely solely on our local meat processors to be able to bring our livestock to market, and their success is inextricably linked to our own. So I'm equally invested in making sure meat processing plants are up to date because it gives me more options and flexibility as a producer. My customers want value-added products, and helping processors buy equipment that allows them to make more sausages, scald hogs, or vacuum seal cuts is just a few examples, makes my farm more attractive to my customers. And as mentioned, due to the bottleneck in meat processing, the more new meat processors we can support as a state, the more emerging farmers we can help to get started and grow their businesses. And finally, as also mentioned, much like farms, many processes are reaching the time for a generational transition. And this funding helps pass these businesses on to the next generation, ensuring that there's a future for my farm business as well. Thank you for the opportunity to testify, and I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Bernhardt. Any other testifiers in the audience who care to testify for or against this bill? Seeing none, we will move to member questions or comments. Representative Anderson.
You know I would. Thank you, Madam Chair. To the testifier, thanks for being here. Your work sounds interesting. Could you give us some idea of how many people work in your plant and some of the work you do? And just how big are some of these plants? And also the testifier on video, she could tell us the size of some of the plants she's talking about as well.
Let's begin with Mr. Tao.
I have about 8 people working in the plant.
Thank you. And Ms. Bernhardt?
Madam Chair and Representative Anderson, I don't know for certain, but I think that, it is a small processor. I use Lake Haven Meats in Sturgeon Lake. I think they're doing maybe around 10 steers a week would be my guess. I know that when I do my lamb, I think the max I'm able to bring in one day for them to process is 20 lambs at one time.
Representative Anderson?
Thank you again. Yeah, thanks for those comments. And again, I think when we talk about incenting the expansion of meat processing, just last week we heard a bill that may kind of curtail the expansion of meat processing. And I think the bill we heard last week, the Wolgamott bill, had a ceiling of 50. So these seem to be well under that threshold of 50. But again, we're, I think, kind of sending mixed messages on one, and I support your bill, Representative, to do this. But then on the other hand, when they get up to this 45 or 50 person employment, then we're gonna clamp regulations on them that the people that did testify said it would drive them out of business. So I think we need to be careful in terms of the messages we send, who we incent, and who we make more difficult in what they do. But again, I support your bill, Representative Cha.
Representative Cha?
Thank you, Representative Anderson, for that comment, and I agree with you. We have to be careful about how we write these policies. But to these small producers, I don't think they're looking to expand to have a huge operation. It's kind of like a niche thing. And I'm sure Mr. Tao has had 8 employees for the last 30 years, so thank you.
Additional questions or comments from the committee? Chair Vang.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to thank Representative Chow for bringing this bill forward, and thank you to Morgan Tao for testifying here today in today's Agriculture Committee. Long Jiang has been a long time community gem for not just the Hmong community, for many immigrant communities, and continues to be throughout the state. And so thank you, Morgan Tao, for your contributions to the state as well.
Thank you. Representative Vang, any other comments, questions? Seeing none, Representative Cha to close.
Yes, first of all, I'd like to thank Representative Hansen for continuously advocating for Longchang and processors. And, I am State Representative 47B, but on behalf of my community, as a leader of my community, of the Hmong community, I want to extend the thank you from the elders to your work and this committee in the past for continue supporting Longchang and other markets. I want to thank Lead Anderson and Representative Nelson and Purcell, all of you, for being co-authors on this bill. And thank you for the opportunity to present this House File 2563 on this committee. And with that, I would like to renew my motion to possible inclusion.
Thank you. Representative Cha renews his motion for House File 2563 to be included potentially in our Agriculture Omnibus Bill, and the bill is laid over. Before we adjourn, Representative Vang to an announcement.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, I want to ask all of you to, if you guys would be willing to stay an extra couple of minutes after members of the public has left the room, and we'll just have a quick announcement to everyone.
Thank you. And we will be just in recess until 6:00 p.m. We will not be in this room. We will be in the State Office Building, room 200. We'll see you at 6:00. We are in recess.